Welcome to Sit Down News, a podcast that's alive and thriving despite the wishful thinking of others. I first want to give a shout out to Ratchet, that's Ratchet Clothing from the UK. I'll put a link down below for Ratchet. Anyone who wants to check out their website can do that. I also want to give a shout out to a little guy named Logan, aka Spider-Man. Today, I'm going to be speaking about someone that a lot of people have messaged me about, asking questions, wanting to know a little more. And I titled it in a blog post today, Acting Lucchese Boss. You could go down below. I'll put a link down below to the latest blog, and you can visit sitdownnews.com if you want. So this is in reference to Mikey DeSantis, for those of you who know. And I started out with a quote, and it is dangerous for a ruler to trust others. He who trusts others can be manipulated by others. Very true. So Mikey DeSantis was officially inducted into the Lucchese crime family sometime in '89. And that ceremony was presided over by little Vic Amuso, who's the official boss still to this day. And a lot of people have questioned me and asked me for answers when the Al Diaco incident happened. Why didn't Mikey DeSantis just shoot and kill Al Diaco? I was not there, as everyone knows. This was before my time. My answer to that can only be my theory. So on September 18th, 1991, Al Diaco was called to a meeting at the Kimberly Hotel in Manhattan. The Lucchese administration wanted to kill Al Diaco. There was a lot of paranoia going on back then, and obviously they wanted to eliminate him. Mikey DeSantis was in the hotel room that day, and for those of you who read Al Diaco's book, it kind of gives a whole description of what went on. I'm not going to go into it. I believe the reasoning why Mikey didn't come out of the bathroom blazing and killing Al Diaco was that Mikey was told to go there, instructed to go there, bring a pistol. And I guess it just was not the right timing. He was waiting for direction from members of the panel. Back then, when they took Al Diaco down from the acting boss position, they created a panel to run the family. So members of that panel were also in that hotel room. Mikey DeSantis definitely was waiting for direction, a nod, a signal, or what have you, to do what he needed to do. That's my theory of why he didn't do it. I really don't know the real answer. So I started out speaking about treachery. And what had taken place back then was that my captain, Big John Castellucci, was starting trouble for some reason, or trying to start trouble between myself and Mikey DeSantis. To fill you in a little bit, Mikey just was transferred to our crew, which was the Brooklyn faction, although we were based out of Staten Island, of the Lucchese family. And I had heard a little bit about Mikey not getting along with his captain out of the Long Island crew, which was Carmine Avellino. And Big John had come to me and asked me if I had met Mikey. And I think he meant, was I ever introduced? And I said, no, I didn't meet him, but I know of him. I had heard of him. And he said, well, he said that a couple of nights ago in a Brooklyn restaurant, you ignored him. You didn't come over and introduce yourself. Now, it just so happened that friends of mine, a couple of nights prior to this conversation, had run into Mikey in a restaurant in Brooklyn, like he said, and one of them had told me. But I knew I was home, so something was wrong with this story, and I kind of was recognizing what John was up to. But I told him, I said, John, I wouldn't know him if you walk past us right now. I says, and anyway, even if I was there, what was I going to do? Go introduce myself to him? And what I meant by that, excuse me, is that I meant an introduction in that life where two friends or two members are introduced as members, which you would need a third party for. And he kind of laughed, and John called everybody Mo. He says, Mo, forget about it. He's a bug. Now, that's a knock to Mikey by John. I'm sure that term is used maybe in the street as well, but in prison, you call somebody a bug, you're calling them a mental patient. I later found out the reasoning behind this whole thing when I ran into Ralphie, and Ralphie being Ralphie Di Matteo. Some of you may have heard that I was close to him at one time. And at this time, Ralphie was a soldier like myself, and he was with the Colombo family. Presently, he's in a lot of trouble right now, and he is the consigliere, and he just got busted with all of the administration. And he told me that Big John had come to him very concerned about how to deal with Mikey DeSantis, because now Mikey was part of our crew, and John knew Ralphie and Mikey were close. And he basically said that Mikey made John nervous, and he wanted advice on how to deal with him. And Ralphie told him, I'm telling you, don't fuck with this guy. He's not the one, and you better treat him good, which obviously John did. I was in their company plenty of times, and John was always treated Mikey very respectful, and vice versa. I later went on to talk about another conversation that took place between Big John, Johnny Sideburns, and myself. And Johnny Sideburns started telling me about allegedly a letter that Mikey wrote, a letter of resignation. So I questioned that letter. I says, what does that mean? I didn't know. I don't know what he was talking about. What kind of letter of resignation? And he went on to tell me that basically it was a letter describing Mikey's relationship with his captain, Carmine Avellino, and how he couldn't get along with him. And he was asking to be, I guess, released or to be able to resign. I don't know. It didn't make any sense to me. And I wrote that Johnny Sideburns wanted to further his scoring points with our captain that was standing there listening to this, and also confirmed that he did write this letter allegedly. And he turned around and he said, it's a fucking embarrassment. This is not, meaning the mob is not a Fortune 500 company that you can resign from. And Johnny Sideburns further went on to try to knock Mikey's character by telling me about a meeting that he had, and Mikey showed up to the meeting riding a bicycle, to which he said that he showed up to the meeting riding, in some park on a fucking bicycle, like one of these yuppies. Now, I'll just stop there. In defense of Mikey, at the time that John was talking about, this is prior to this time frame, Mikey was on paper, which means Mikey had come home. He was on federal probation. He was not supposed to be meeting with Johnny Sideburns. So, he most likely, and I can guarantee you this because he's not a stupid guy, he took the bike, went in around avoiding any tail, and went and met John in the park. So I think that comment was uncalled for. There came a time when obviously Mikey, we were in the same crew, we're with the same family, we have to be introduced. We were introduced. And despite all these things that I was hearing, he was a very likable guy. He was very respectful to me. I was very respectful back. He never once made mention of me not saying hello to him or seeing him in a restaurant, not introducing myself, and neither did I. And to go a step further, to show his character, an incident took place. And once again, for the record, this was back then when I was in the life, I assaulted a Bonanno associate. I could get to that at another time, but at the time I did this, after that, it just so happened that everybody in our crew had gone on vacation at that time. So nobody really was around. And I don't remember exactly how I wound up meeting with Mikey, but we discussed I think I went and took a ride to Bay Ridge and met with him and discussed what took place. Every day thereafter, he called me up and checked in with me to make sure I was all right, and that he wanted to know, did anybody from the Bananos from that Borgata reach out to me yet and want to sit down over this incident? They didn't. It came later on, but at that time it didn't. But every day he definitely did check on me. And when I thanked him, he answered and said, listen, I'm available whenever you need me, which I always respected about him. Another incident that took place, I had to sit down with an associate from the West Side. For those of you who don't know what the West Side is, that's how we refer to them in the street. And I'm talking about the Genovese family. And Mikey set that meeting up. He happened to know the guy very well. The West Side did not step out. And what I mean by that is no one showed up to sit down for this guy. Mikey set it up where I was able to talk to him. I met him in a Bay Ridge bagel shop. He brought me in the back room with the guy. And before he left, he told the guy, I'm telling you right now, don't lie to my friend, or we're both going to be upset with you. And, you know, I appreciated him setting that up for me. I speak about as time goes by. So as time goes by, you're with the crew, you build relationships with certain members of that crew. And Mikey and I formed a relationship. And this was commonly known. We weren't together every day, but we did have a relationship. We respected one another. Once again, for the record, back then, there was a lot of skirmishes and scuffles that took place that I was involved in Long Island. And at another meeting, Mikey, at this time, he now became the acting boss. All right. And he suggested to me, he said, look, I respect what you're doing. I know what took place. He said, but you need to let the associates, these guys who are looking to get straightened out, what we mean by that is looking to be inducted, let them handle these things. He says, you have nothing to prove. Let them prove themselves. So I wrote about that. Fast forward, I go to one of the last Christmas parties that I attended, and this was in December of 2007. Our crew held it at Campagna, and that's, for those of you who know, there's a bunch of Campagnas now in Staten Island, but this location was on Richmond Avenue. And due to traffic, I usually was never late, but this particular day I was late. So by the time I got there, in the party room towards the back was a bar, and I found Mikey surrounded by a whole crew of guys, and he was having a drink with them. Everyone was jockeying for his attention. And when I walked over, he smiled, he kissed me hello, I kissed him hello, you know, told the guy, get me a drink, and we had a drink. He says, come on, let's go find the seat, sit down. And it was kind of funny because it was a long table, very long table, from the front near the bar all the way to the door. You know, there was maybe 30, 40 guys in that room, maybe possibly more. I didn't count them. And every seat that I went to go find had a cell phone or cell phones on top of the table, kind of securing that seat. So finally, I just picked two. I took the cell phones, and he says, oh, I said, come on, we'll sit here. He said, I think somebody's sitting there. And I took the phones and I didn't throw them, but I kind of tossed them to the side. And I said, no, these two are empty. I says, and anyway, who's going to debate us? You know, who's going to debate this? And he kind of laughed, but he knew I was only kidding around. And I started talking to Mikey as a friend. And what I mean by that is as his friend, with the Lucchese family to the side. You know, not that didn't mean anything to me or him. I was speaking to him man to man, friend to friend. And what I didn't say in the blog, and why I brought up what I brought up to him, was that Mikey was very much out there. He just took the position over. He was going to a lot of these Christmas parties, not only with our Borgata, but with others. He was attending. He was out there. Mikey was out there. As in a boss position, he was out there a little too much. And this is what I brought up to him respectfully. You know, I didn't want him to think that I was trying to school him on anything. He knew well enough. And I basically told him that he needed to be a little more, I respected how he puts himself out there, and he was a man's man and going around everyone in life, but that he needed to be a little more low key for his own protection. And he agreed with that. He said, you know, I know you go to work every day, get your schedule together and get it to me, because you could handle something. As long as you could help me out. And I agreed to do that. And there's a later part to this, and had to do with Patty Delarosa. I'll get into that at another time, about Patty's feelings on what Mikey asked me to do. So the last part of this blog, I named it "Where is Our Future?" And that has to do with what I'm going to speak about next. So we were sitting together, and one of the guys in our crew, Scotty Gervasi, who I like very much, I always liked Scotty, he was a nice guy, was kind of talking to Mikey from across the table. And he said, basically, he said, Mikey did, like, there's nobody left out there. You know, these younger guys, he said, I wouldn't propose any of them, and meaning propose them for membership to come into the family. That's what he was talking about. And he basically was saying, like, who's going to replace us guys when we're gone? And where is our future? In other words, where's the future of the Bagada or the life? I don't really know what he was referring to. And I ended it with Mikey not missing a beat. And Mikey looked towards me and he said to Scotty, you're looking at him, this is our future, which was a very high compliment at that point in my life. And everyone who was in earshot, you could believe that they understood what that meant. And that's it. So that's the story. That's where I left off. That's that's where I ended the blog. I just felt it was a good place to end it. And that was it. For those of you who are not subscribed to this channel, Sit Down News, you could do so down below. I appreciate everyone subscribing to this channel and also to my new channel, which is Unlimited Substance. You could find Unlimited Substance if you put Unlimited Substance Podcast. That's how you have to look it up. It's a little difficult for it to come up. I don't know why. But you could also go on that channel and subscribe. Once again, I appreciate everyone who has subscribed to both channels. And I'm going to end now. I'm going to wish everyone a good rest of the day to you. I'm going to go relax and enjoy the rest of my day. And positivity. I wish you all positivity. May positivity prevail. Ciao for now. I hope you like the podcast, and I hope you all enjoy the blog if you read it. Ciao.